welcome back. We have a little side quest like I was talking about the other day, working on the Camaro with my sidekick here. We're going to break down this 5.3 we have and try to give it back to life here. So we're going to go ahead and label the pistons and everything. I'm going to have my little dude do that and kind of go from there. So the long-term goal with this engine is we're going to put it in the Camaro. We're going to do an LS swap. And some of you may be thinking, well, why? It's just cheaper to buy a V8 car and this and that. And that's mostly true. The thing about it is like the Subaru, the LS platforms, particularly the F-bodies, have pretty much fallen off of the map as far as value is concerned. And the V6s aren't worth any more than the V8s are, really. Most cars have been cut up, turned into race cars, blown up, and sent to the junkyard. So it's kind of one of those weird parts, sections in automotive history where you just kind of work with what you got. And seeing as I have pretty much everything I need to put this engine together already, with the exception of a few small items, which we're going to get here next couple of days, a buddy of mine parts these out for a living, or a side job rather, who can get me the rest of the pieces I need to put the V8 in the car. So for me, at this point in time, it just makes more sense to just LS swap the thing, since I have access to pretty much everything I need. So I'm gonna let this guy tire himself out in a second. We're gonna start labeling pistons. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and label the pistons. I have my crank operator here who's just eager to do something. This would be inside the car. This is gonna be the driver's side, if you're not aware, with the front of the engine being there. And so on this side, we're gonna go 1, 3, 5, and 7. And then we're going to go on the other side and label what will be the passenger side. It'll be the same thing. Go ahead, turn it over. All right, that's good, bud. This is going to be 2, if I can get this stupid marker right. 2, 4, 6, and then 8. And so
doubles. 2, 4, 6, 8.
Okay, so the reason we're going to do this is because I'm just going to go ahead and do a sloppy re-ring, re-bearing. We're not going to go over the top with this particular build like we did with the Durango, simply because 1, funds are tight, 2, it's an LS, so we can do that sort of thing, and 3, well, I got to get this car running sooner rather than later. And so I know, just like you know, as long as we number the slugs and the holes are coming out of, get a new set of piston rings, which we'll get, and I have a set of main and rod bearings already. As long as everything checks out, put everything right back where it came, gap the rings accordingly, put some fresh bearings in it, and cam bearings with a different cam. I pretty much don't have to worry about it. So this is going to be a sloppy-esque build. We're going to use what we can, replace what we can't, or things that are just smart to replace, like the lifters and lifter trays and all that kind of jazz. And then put a solid cam in it, new timing set, and throw that bad boy in the car. So I have...
You should go see the car.
I have a 7576, I think it is, that I got from my sponsor, Michael, over there at Monkey Fab. And so what we'll probably end up doing is we'll use this turbo with the hot side I already have. I have a fuel pump, I have injectors, I have pretty much everything I need to make a low buck turbo LS build. And you might be thinking, well, what about the GTO and the Subaru, the Snap? Well, yeah, we'll get to that. But right now, I have a huge collection of parts that I cannot sell, like so, that we're just going to try to utilize to make one whole car. One whole car, one fun car, to try to give all these parts I have around the garage a purpose. Because I've collected more things than I care to admit, and I need them to have a purpose, so I can get back to that sooner rather than later. Also, I'm gearing up for Academy here at the end of the year, in the fall. You can't tell what to do. And so I want as many running cars as possible, so when I'm going through that process, which is about 6 months, I don't have to worry as much about transportation, because there'll be fallback cars for everybody to drive on top of their main cars. That's the long or the short of it. And buying more cars on top of broken cars doesn't really fit the bill. So we're gonna have a very busy summer trying to fix stuff and get things back on the road. We're going to start with the Camaro because LS is, you know, fairly simple, extremely cheap. Everybody's done it. Everything's been done 1,000 times. Pretty much everything it needs on the marketplace, and it just makes more sense. So we're going to go ahead and press forward, rotate this thing over, start pulling rods. It's okay, we got time. All right, so real quick, we are going to power through this because I got to go run an errand real fast and somebody has to take a shower. Anyways, so I was given this engine from a buddy of mine who said that he was tired looking at it sitting in the yard. Now, I was told originally that it had rod knock. This one looks good, and this journal looks good as well. So we're going to pop this out. We're going to get some cardboard, label everything as we take it out so we can take it to the machine shop accordingly. I have rods in here, some K1 rods for a 4.8, which I believe this is. I'm pretty sure it's a 4.8. Yeah, it's a 4.8. So if I do have a spun rod, a rod bearing issue, not a big deal. As long as the journals are good and can be polished and don't have to be turned, the killer deal I got on the King bearings, main rod bearings here recently, will work out. So I'm going to go ahead and power through the rest of these so we can run to the store real quick and make sure I have good rods. And I might come back and finish up the tear down when I get home this evening. And so we can just kind of talk about the plan ahead, what the goal is for this, and how I'm going to challenge myself to get this thing up and running in that Camaro very soon. So here we go. All right, so we're going to finish up here in a second. I lost my partner because he wanted to go inside, but he's 7. So the fact that he lasted this long is pretty admirable. If you got kids, you know what I'm talking about. He's interested. He's just, attention span is just not quite there yet. But I do have good news. Everything I found on the 4.8, 5.3, whatever, this particular short block looks really good. So you might be able to see into the journals here a little bit and the rods. There's nothing super crazy. Obviously, it's probably lost a couple, due for a few oil changes. This one's got a couple rough spots in it, but nothing worth writing home about. The bearings themselves are designed to be like fusible links for metal rubbing together so that they save the journals here on the crank, as you can see. Overall, it looks really, really good. I'm not super worried about it. I think we'll be able to polish the crank just fine. We're not reusing those rods anyways, but we'll reuse the pistons and get a new set. Now, before you ask, well, why don't you just go above forged pistons? Well, if you remember, like I said earlier, this is kind of a side quest, and I have 2 other cars that need my attention with a very limited budget. This one is the most economical for all intents and purposes because parts are plentiful. This particular platform is super cheap. I have been very successful on Marketplace up to this point, to the fact that I have a guy supposed to come over this weekend to take a look at a boomstick for more parts for this build, which is less money out of my pocket, which is just something that is pretty unique to the LS platform. There's not a whole lot of platforms that fall into that category. Maybe Hondas if you wanted to go there, but you're not going to get this kind of energy in a Coyote or a Gen 3 Hemi per se, as far as being plentiful and cheap. That being said, what's the goal? Well, the goal is to get the Camaro running again without having the shortcomings of the 3800. Now, before you say anything, yes, I'm well aware the 3800 is a great engine and it's bulletproof and blah, 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 blah. However, they made more 3800s at a front-wheel drive capacity than they did a rear-wheel drive capacity, i.e. that Camaro. Plus, you have to remember that Camaro out there is a 2001. It's 2026, okay? So that car is 25 years old. And so the cars that got junked, beat to death, sent to the junkyard the fastest were V6 cars. Now, I had learned that I can use a block from a front-wheel drive car, but I have to use the heads from a rear-wheel drive car. And seeing how that motor's locked up, and seeing the surprise I got in the Hemi, which I ended up having a destroyed head, I'm not even going to bother with it. I'm not, because even though the initial LS swap itself might be a bit of a pain in the ass, ultimately it's going to be better in the long run to just go ahead and swap the car now while I have the time and parts and resources to do so. Because once it's LS swap, once it's a Z28 or however you want to look at it, that's it. So any future lifter issues, cam issues, blocks, whatever, it's a $300 repair. And if you're familiar with the LS platform, you know what I mean. Like, seriously, once everything's converted on that car to house an LS-based V8, it literally doesn't matter the issue. It doesn't matter if the engine comes out of a GTO, a Corvette, a CTSV, a G8, a SS. It doesn't matter. It's a simple fix. It's a cheap fix for all, for all intended purposes. And that's kind of was my attitude about it. I could have pulled that 3800 out, tore it apart, go through the painstaking process of trying to find parts for it, which, oh, by the way, there's only a handful of people who make aftermarket parts for it, and this, and this, or do what makes sense. And just do what's been done 1,000 times in this regard. Now, as for the turbo and stuff, that's one of many, many parts that I was sent from my sponsor that I haven't had a chance to use because just life just keeps happening. And so I feel like in this case, with the multitude of parts I have all over this garage, a lot of LS parts and just turbo parts in general, this will be a good opportunity to utilize some of that stuff in that car fairly easily because it's been done before, right? Like that, this Holley hooker setup here, technically I could pull this whole setup out with the crossover pipe and put it directly in that car on that short block with the applicable heads and all that kind of stuff, which would help. Then I just get a different up pipe made, make the down pipe go out the fender if I wanted to. Done. Literally. It's been done a million times. I got a set of King Rot main bearings for $200. The triple coatings, extra clearance, whatever. That set of bearings, if I was to buy them new, would be about $400. Dude had them on the shelf in the garage, got tired of looking at them, getting out of the LS game, getting into the Coyote games. I bought it off of him for $200 at a meeting up at a Quick Trip, cash. So like, that's what I mean by this. And so with that and the parts that I already bought that I technically slated to put on the GTO, well, I need cars up. And so I'm just going to have to repurpose parts to get certain things done, like get that Camaro running as a V8, potentially with a turbo. We'll see. Once we get past that, and I should be able to get this car up together in about 45 days or less. Once I get all the parts, my big part purchase is going to be next week when I get the swap parts, K-member and all that stuff from my buddy Sean, and drop the short block and everything off at the machine shop. That shouldn't be more than about a week or two. Get a set of heads off Marketplace. I have cam, timing set, valve springs, all of that stuff. Lifters, there's a set of lifters on the Marketplace right now for $200, and just get it done. Once the engine is built, I've learned that you could technically use the 4L60 in the V6. It doesn't have the same internals, sort of. It'll live behind a low-powered LS for a while once you change the bell housing. So, but we'll cross that bridge when I get there. Otherwise, I'll just go find any old 4L60, 4L80 out of a truck. There's plenty of them on Marketplace. It's just that particular engine or transmission in that car, I know is good because we drove it. I even drove it to that spot when it decided to grenade itself. And then just a random old 10 bolt or 9-inch. They're fairly plentiful. Everything else my buddy Sean's got, as far as the harness, the K-member, and all the stuff to make the engine bolt in the car and wire it up. He even has stuff for from that 99 to 01 era, because those harnesses are slightly different, and that being an 01 car, I should be able to take the front harness and fuse block from a 99 to 01 body and literally plug and play into that 01 V6. The gauge cluster, everything should communicate all the same. Change the TCM, which I have a TCM out of a truck over here somewhere, and flash with HP tuners and let her eat. So that's the plan. That's the goal. If you've done this swap before, and if I'm missing something, please, by all means, leave me some positive criticism in the comments. But we're just kind of kicking it old school here. I'm going to fix the Durango. It's just that for the amount of money I know it's going to cost to go back inside the Durango, because it's a Gen 3 Hemi, we're literally going to LS swap an F body and possibly turbocharger for less money. I guarantee it. I would be surprised if I have more than $3,500 in this whole process because of what I already have on hand and what I'm wheeling and dealing and trading for, how cheap stuff has gotten, and how terrible the aftermarket market is. The aftermarket is right now, as far as marketplace and wherever you're buying parts from. People can't get rid of this stuff because everyone seems to have come to the realization that their project car was never going to be finished basically at the exact same time. So if you're like me and you're trying to do something relatively on the cheap in a fairly short time frame, now would definitely be the time to do it because it's right before racing season and it's right before tax season and people are just not doing it. So sorry about that. Phone calls, be calling and stuff. But anyway, like I was saying, just between market conditions, my goals, and costs and all that kind of stuff, it just makes more sense to utilize as much as what I have on hand already to make this happen. I guess it can be kind of a stretch to say that LS swapping a V6 and slapping a Whirlybird on there is a fix, but I mean, here's the thing. And all of us are guilty of it if we're a car enthusiast or a gearhead, rather, to any significant degree. We collect things, we trade things, we buy things, and we often forget what we have. And next thing we know, we have a garage full of stuff that never gets used, and it's always the same excuse. Oh, when I buy X, or oh, when I get Y, or oh, when I, get such and such money, or I want to do 50 billion horsepower, this and that. Nah, man. Let's get away from that. Because like I was telling you guys, the whole point of the channel is to stay grassroots, stay DIY, and stay accomplishing things and getting away from the excuses that we all make, myself included, to prevent us from seeing these projects through. This GTO right here will be done. Honestly, it looks like it's a lot left, but it's really not. I have a dash harness to put back in there. I have to finish mounting the transfer case correctly and bolting it to the car, verifying the steering angle and locking that down. Then the engine and trans comes out to get rebuilt. That's all that's left. That's why I haven't been really super pressed on it, because I've already proven the concept. It does mechanically work. I just have to finish the mountings. But then life keeps throwing me curveballs. And unfortunately, the car keeps put back on the back burner because I have other things to get done. And now I have 7 vehicles at the house, and 3 of them run. And if you're from Oklahoma, that's a pretty normal thing. But we're going to try to get a hold of that this summer, starting with this Camaro. Then we'll readdress the Durango, and after that, we'll be down to the GTO and the Subaru, which can be long-term projects because they're very unique in and of themselves. Subaru by design, GTO by design, so not a big deal. They're both all-wheel drive, ironically enough, so there's that. But anyway, we're going to keep with the spirit of the channel, and that's getting things done as much as possible, with as little as possible when it makes sense. And this sloppy 4.8, 5.3 potentially turbo setup is, within that. So anyways, here's what I got. These K1 rods, and then these bearings I picked up for cheap. Those were cheap too. I think those were like $400 also. And then just let her eat, man. I've got most of the valve train. I'm going to hopefully get the rest of what I need this weekend from this guy. Little man's in there. He's excited. He says we are going to fix it. So we'll see how much he hangs around for the difficult stuff. My goal is to get the short block, the crank, all the parts that I have on hand dropped off the Stanley next week once I meet with this guy this weekend to see what he has. Because he's probably going to bring me the rest of what I need as far as the timing set and a couple other things. I will order some cam bearings so that can get done at the machine shop. Let the machine shop do their thing, and we'll put plenty of gap in those pistons rings, you know what I'm saying? Extra clearance bearings, polish the crank, put it back together with those rods and stock pistons and stock crank. The stock cranks have been proven to over 1,000 horsepower many times. I would be surprised if this car sees much over 5. And that's just keeping it real. 5.5, 6, anything more than that, it's a lot to deal with. The GTO, we're going to throw the kitchen sink at it. Why? Because it's been down for forever and it's all-wheel drive, so why not? But as far as the Camaro is concerned, to keep it within reasonable constraints, and the time frame I'm setting for myself, starting today, 45 days from today, that car LS swapped and running. Hold me to it. So turbo, maybe, maybe not, but LS swapped and running, I feel like that can be more than easily done, given the plentifulness of parts and how much I already have on hand in the marketplace. So I guess at that point comes down to the machine shop and my personal free time as well as the weather. So 45 days plus or minus a week, we'll kind of see where we're at. But I'm gonna go back inside. I was gonna yank the crank out, but I think I'll deal with that tomorrow. Got my slugs there. That's junk. We'll get with that some other time. That's the Subaru's engine. I finally got on the engine stand. I just haven't had time. Got to clean the mess over here, the IAG blocks under that, and get these projects done, man. So, as always, thanks for watching.